which currencies are being used for these oil transactions? Where are we getting these reports that that is in fact what Iran wants?
Well, it's interesting, Michelle. You said at the beginning of the segment, the news is breaking so fast. Even people who are very tuned in, you have to kind of struggle to keep up a little bit. But this is literally in the breaking news category. It was reported in the Financial Times that Iran is charging this toll to pass through the Straits of Hormuz. And again, I would say that tells me that Iran is in charge of the Strait of Hormuz. The idea that, where's the U.S. toll collector? Trump talked about it, but that doesn't exist. Now, Iran is, first they said $2 million per vessel. The latest version is $1 per barrel of oil. Just calculate, it's not hard to do. But that they would take it in the cryptocurrency equivalent. Now, they didn't say which cryptocurrency. A lot of people just assume Bitcoin. They didn't say Bitcoin. It could be Bitcoin. It could be Tether. It could be, Ripple. A lot of cryptocurrencies out there. But in cryptocurrencies, now here's what gets interesting. Cryptocurrencies have a dollar equivalent. So you're always back to the dollar, no matter how hard people try to get away from it. And my point is, if it's $1 per barrel, I'll take the crypto equivalent of $1 per barrel. You're still using the dollar as your frame of reference. Okay, send me the cryptocurrency, whatever it is. I'm Iran. What do I do with the cryptocurrency? I mean, this is my point. You might use it to buy gold. Again, that's your question. That's a very good one. What does Iran have to buy? Well, they have to buy new weapon systems from Russia. They've got to rebuild their infrastructure. Maybe the Chinese can help with that. But my point is, you're not going to get very far. There are no crypto reserve assets. Again, there's no crypto bond market. There's cryptocurrencies, but there's no crypto bond market. So the crypto, again, it's a medium of exchange. It's a payment currency, yes, but there's no bond market. It's not a reserve asset. You're going to have to go back to dollars or gold sooner or later.
Did you just hear that? An ex-CIA contractor, the man who helped build the Petrodollar system, just said Ripple could be settling oil transactions. This is not some random crypto influencer. This is Jim Rickards. And what he just revealed changes everything. But before we break down exactly what Rickards meant and why this is generational news for XRP holders, you need to understand what is happening at the very top of American financial power right now. Jerome Powell, the man who has controlled monetary policy for years, is being shown the door. Kevin Hassett just confirmed it. When asked if Powell would stay on the board after his May 15th term ends, Hassett said, quote, "No, I am not expecting him to stay on the board. Let that sink in. The Federal Reserve Chair is being replaced. And the nominee? Kevin Warsh. This is not a minor personnel change. This is a complete reset of who controls the money printer. Why does this matter for XRP? Because the old guard, the people who protected legacy banking, who slow-walked innovation, who let the SEC wage war on crypto for years, they are being cleaned out. A new financial regime is taking shape. And that regime is building infrastructure that runs on digital assets. The same digital assets that Ripple has spent a decade preparing for institutional adoption. Watch what Kevin Hassett said about cleaning house at the Fed. Watch what Kevin Hassett said next.
Whether or not Jay Powell's going to leave. Maybe he'll just stay on the board, unless this investigation into Jay Powell goes away. So can you really be sure that Kevin Warsh is going to start as chairman of the Fed May 15th?
I'm highly confident that will happen and that we'll work something out with Senator Tillis that satisfies him. And I think the reason we do that is it's so important that such an excellent man get there to the Fed. In terms of Jay Powell, he's really signaled that once there's a confirmed Fed chair that he'll step aside, and that's the appropriate thing for him to do.
And so you're not expecting him to stay on the board?
No, I am not.
Because, have you spoken with Tom Tillis?
I have over the years, but not about this specific matter, yeah.
Okay. In terms of the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve, what are your expectations in terms of lessening?
And it is not just the Fed getting restructured. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is now publicly pressuring Congress to move faster on crypto legislation. He just made a statement that should have every XRP holder paying attention. Bessent said, quote, "Congress has spent the better part of half a decade trying to pass a framework to onshore the future of finance. It is time for the Banking Committee to hold a markup and send the Clarity Act to President Trump's desk. Senate time is precious, and now is the time to act." Read that again. The Treasury Secretary of the United States is calling crypto the future of finance. And he wants legislation on Trump's desk now. The Clarity Act would establish clear rules for digital assets. Combined with the Genius Act for stablecoins, you are looking at the complete regulatory framework that institutions have been waiting for. And here's what the mainstream media will not tell you. Ripple has been positioning for this moment since 2012. While other projects were launching meme coins and rug pulls, Ripple was meeting with central banks. They were building enterprise software. They were getting licenses in every major jurisdiction. When this legislation passes, XRP will not be scrambling to comply. They will be ready. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The White House just released a document that exposes exactly why traditional banks have been fighting crypto so hard. The Council of Economic Advisors published a report titled "Effects of Stablecoin Yield Prohibition on Bank Lending." This came directly from the Executive Office of the President. The data shows that eliminating stablecoin yield would only increase bank lending by $1 billion. That sounds like a lot until you realize it represents just 0.02% of total loans. That is essentially nothing. And what it reveals is absolutely damning for the banking lobby. Banks have been arguing for years that if stablecoins are allowed to offer yield to holders, it would devastate their business model. They claimed deposits would flee the banking system. They said lending would collapse. They used this fear to lobby against pro-crypto legislation. But the White House just called their bluff. The report states, quote, "This concern is quantitatively small." How small? The report concludes, quote, "A yield prohibition would do very little to protect bank lending, while foregoing the consumer benefits of competitive returns on stablecoin holdings." Translation? Banks were lying. They were not trying to protect the financial system. They were trying to protect their monopoly on your money. They wanted to keep earning interest on your deposits while paying you virtually nothing. And now the White House is calling them out. So we have the Fed being restructured. We have the Treasury pushing for crypto legislation. We have the White House exposing bank manipulation. But what about Ripple specifically? What are they doing while all of this unfolds? Ripple President Monica Long just dropped a bombshell. She confirmed that capital markets is next. We are talking stocks, bonds, securities settlement, the core infrastructure of Wall Street. Think about what this means. Ripple did not just want to disrupt cross-border payments. That was the foundation, the starting point. The proof of concept that got them in the door with hundreds of financial institutions around the world. Now they are going after the $14 trillion securities settlement market. Every single day, trillions of dollars in stocks and bonds need to settle between counterparties. Currently, that process takes days. It requires armies of back-office staff. It costs billions in fees and creates massive counterparty risk. Ripple is coming to replace all of that. The XRP ledger can settle transactions in 3 to 5 seconds. Not 3 to 5 days, 3 to 5 seconds. Wall Street knows this is coming. That is why every major bank has been quietly building blockchain divisions, but Ripple has a 12-year head start. Listen to what Monica Long confirmed about their capital markets expansion. Watch what Monica Long said next.
Payments is also kind of like a base use case for other types of financial services. Like if you think about security settlement, like it triggers a payment at the end of it. So we thought we should tackle this first. But we always did have our sights set on expanding into tackling other types of financial use cases. So capital markets is kind of like a logical place to expand.
So stocks and
Stocks, bonds,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now let us bring this full circle back to what Jim Rickards said at the beginning of this video. This is a man who was literally involved in creating the petrodollar system. He was a CIA contractor with deep connections to the financial intelligence community, and when asked which currencies could be settling global oil transactions, he said, Ripple. Do you understand the magnitude of that statement? The petrodollar has been the backbone of American financial hegemony for 50 years. Every country that wanted to buy oil had to hold US dollars. That created constant demand for the dollar and allowed America to export inflation to the rest of the world. But that system is cracking. BRICS nations are settling in local currencies. China is buying oil in yuan. The global de-dollarization trend is accelerating faster than anyone predicted. So what replaces the petrodollar for international settlement? What asset is fast enough, scalable enough, and neutral enough for sovereign nations to trust? According to an insider who helped build the current system, it could be XRP. This is not hopium. This is not speculation from anonymous accounts on social media. This is coming from people at the highest levels of financial power. The regulatory framework is being built. The Fed is being restructured. The White House is exposing bank manipulation. Ripple is expanding into capital markets. What? And now former CIA contractors are naming XRP as a potential settlement layer for global oil trade. You are watching the financial system transform in real time. And if you are holding XRP, you are positioned for what could be the greatest wealth transfer in human history. Do not let anyone tell you that you are crazy for believing. The insiders are confirming everything. Stay patient. Stay convicted. And smash that subscribe button because this story is just getting started.